Good morning, my name is Kirsty Dignam, and I'm here to look at the weekly energies with today's Monday's Musings on the 5th of January 2026. But first, it feels important to stop, to pause, to acknowledge whilst the calendar year may have changed, there are many things that are playing themselves out to be integrated around us. We are still in winter. We are still in the energy of stillness, observation, integration. We are still in the energy of completion and the year of the serpent and whatever name we want to give it. We are still in the times of unraveling, of shedding what is no longer to be tolerated. And in that comes our own energy also. In that comes our own wounding also. In that comes our own approach to things also. The year of change was never going to be just those out there. Equally, it was never going to be individual. It isn't possible to shift something without it having an impact, and this week we are going to be shown the importance of that through the archetype of war, through the energy of conflict, through our own conscious or not, as the case may be, awareness of that from within. In the video that I did New Year's Eve, New Year's Day for 2026, the month of January was about direction and clarity, but that didn't come without confusion first. That didn't come without the invitation to really decide what we are going to walk away from in regards to our own mentality, our own mindset. The truth of the matter is anything that we share, anything that we connect to can only do so from the level that we find ourselves at. And January is an incredible month to recognize that as we prepare to step into the more warrior-like energy, to truly decide. It's not about what side you sit on. It's not about what world you want to be part of, but to decide what part of you and your own experiences and your own soul connection you now want to take forward, particularly around the energy and archetype of the warrior. As Neptune goes into Aries, this is something I really spoke in quite depth with in the previous video for January and the year ahead, but also in blogs, so I'm not going to go over it. But as Neptune steps into Aries, we do step into the fire-like energy. And this is where we are really being called to mature, to be the fire keepers that we came here to be. It's one thing to say it's the year of the horse, or the year of the fire horse, or the magi, or the wheel of fortune, or, the energy of fire and the warrior itself. But we're really being encouraged to look at our own understanding of that. Our own comprehension of being an individual within the one. Are we continuing to fight amongst ourselves, or for the greater cause? Why is that important? Well, one, it's linked to individual wounds. You may find this week certain things you're asked to do that trigger aspects of your own upbringing or your own ancestral line, and it's deep ancestral lines here, deep ancestral healing that is occurring here. So you may find that something comes up and your own reaction into how you feel about doing that needs attention, redirection, internal reflection rather than projection. And that is really important. One, because once we can go through the awareness of the wound behind why we may begrudgingly do something, we can find the strength and acknowledge the leadership being asked of us individually within the greater scheme of things. Leadership isn't about one person. It's about us all as the one, but also acknowledging the energy behind the message that is being given, the task that is being asked of, the responsibility we are being part of. If it's coming from a place of pain that has yet to be acknowledged and therefore passed on to other people, or finger pointing, it won't be received at the level that it needs to be received at. Collectively, there is a great deal of fear, understandably, a huge amount of pain, understandably, and anger and frustration. It's going to take something different to get through the vibrations and frequencies that are currently being felt and experienced, and that is going to take heart coherence and love for ourselves and how we feel about sharing the things we're being asked to share, for ourselves and our own insecurities around worth or around how we see ourselves, but also for those that will then be more open to our vulnerability and their own as a result. The other thing I want to discuss before I look into the energies of this week, too, it's multifaceted here, okay? So we have the doing what we do, continue to do what we do. It may not feel like it's enough in the huge things that are going on, but a classic example, the walk of peace from the monastery, from the monks, is going viral, is going global, and they are walking for peace. Now, there are going to be those that suggest that that does nothing to the conflict in the countries where things are occurring at the moment. However, that is what they do. And they have faith in what they do, and they are continuing against all odds to believe that what they do makes a difference. Really, really important this week. If we find ourselves judging ourselves or others based on what they do, to look at the impact, the conflict that is causing in the collective consciousness. What we don't want is people doing what they don't want to do or what they're not here to do, and people that have great ability to hold space or to share wisdom or to raise their family or to work in their community, stopping doing that because they don't feel like it's enough. That's not going to help anybody. So sticking to what works, sticking to what you do, sticking to what you do know yourself first and foremost. I said it was multifaceted, and I can't remember the other side of the reasoning behind what it was I was sharing, but it will come. Okay, so having peace with that. These answers will come. We don't always know everything when we start to do something. Having the courage to step forward in that warrior-like energy, having the belief and the hope and inspiration in yourself as you do so. Continuing to do what you already do, but being open to what may want to come through as a result. There was something else that I was going to share, so let's pause. Yes, thank you. Yeah. The understanding of the horse energy. Now, bear in mind everything that is shared, be that the tarot, be that the guidance that comes through, is going to come with my perspective also, with the experiences that I've gained also. I'm not in the habit of saying that something is coming directly from outside of me. We all work differently. For me personally, the guides, the tarot, the energies that I work with, I relate to and with in order to connect to them. So I am part of that also, and that feels important to take responsibility, particularly in the spiritual arena. One of the big emphasis is going to be on spiritual work over the next 11 years and how we apply what we have discovered in our everyday lives, including our own woundings. Are we changing? Are we helping ourselves to heal from that? Or are we adding to that just in different illusionary ways? You know, the magician comes with a lot of tricks in his hat as well, ourselves included. Being aware of our role and taking responsibility for that in the guidance that comes through. So yes, I will share what I'm receiving, and I will do so with my own inclusion of that. So when it comes to the energy of the horse, this is just like the tarot, just like my own connection to what is coming, a personal reflection also the energy of the horse and the fire for the year ahead. Fire that burns out, fire that is out of control, fire that is flared up and flamed from the air, in particular, of mindsets that are not being observed or witnessed, is dangerous. That's not transformation, that's destruction. And there's a big difference. Change, the wheel of fortune for the year ahead. Yes, what goes up comes down. Change and destruction are one and the same, but the difference is unnecessary pain within that. The difference is repetition within that may not be as necessary as we think it is. Burnout, destruction, these things, whilst they do provide fertile ground afterwards, there is always another way. Transformation, just like birth, just like death, just like change, doesn't have to be as separate and therefore painful and uncomfortable as we find it at times. Which brings me on to the energy of the horse. Yes, just like fire, it can be wild, it can be out of control, it can be free, but it's very grounded. Horses are very authentic. Horses are very heart-driven. It is their greatest gift. Their heart coherence is their greatest gift. And from being in that heart space, that is how they can pick up all the energies around them. That is how they can act as needed. That is how they can be in stillness. So this year, particularly in this transitionary period between the snake year and the horse year, or the going from Neptune in Pisces to Neptune in Aries, moving elements, moving worlds, moving perceptions. As we're in that transitionary period, it has never been more important to come back to the self, to come back to why you do what you do, how you feel about that, what you need to bring that into a heart space, to be okay with that. I'm not saying that you accept things that are dangerous, that you don't want, that are uncomfortable, that have done you no good. I'm not saying receive anything you don't want to receive. But ultimately, those things that you do want to do, that you may feel agitated about, that you may feel a sense of duty or restriction or begrudging, beholden to, what do you need to bring the vision of that back into your heart? Back into the calling that it was, or the purpose that it was, or the dream, or the wish list, or vision board, or hope that it always was. What is going to help you remember that? What is going to help you remember yourself within that? And that brings me on to areas where we may need to look over the next few weeks. It's going back to the energy for January. I am going to do the cards, possibly. It's going back to the energy for January, that there is direction there. There is clarity there. There is brutal honesty there that we are all seeing collectively, but also individually being encouraged to feel into. It is all there once we can step away from anything that doesn't promote or support that. And that comes down to us. January is going to be the month where we start to really feel what we relate to, how we relate to that, particularly from ancestral, inherited mannerisms, whether or not that still resonates with us, whether or not that still resonates with our soul family. This year is very much about our soul tribe, our soul family, our divine willpower, whether or not that is in alignment with that and what we're going to do about it. And it all comes down to choice. At the end of the day, we can take a moment, pause, acknowledge where we are before we share. Are we in our heart space? Are we connected to our higher self? Are we in fight or flight? Are we in an old situation or story that is playing itself out in our body? What do we need? How can we provide that? It's going to make a big, big difference, not only in the impact that you have, not only in the things that will shift and change, but how you see yourself in the greater scheme of things, and the importance behind everything that you do. which is ultimately where many of us, myself included at times, are at war with. Now, that's not downplaying anything that is going on the global scale. But if we do not understand where we are, we will not comprehend the information that could possibly come through. If we are understandably angry, frustrated, there's a high chance that's all we're going to receive, because we're not open. We're not receptive enough to receive something different. Okay, so take stock, pause, be with the body. I've always been about how can we navigate these times, and that isn't downplaying what is going on. That's empowering you to step into who you are so that you can address what is going on and do whatever it is that's being asked of you to do in that situation. There's no judgment on my part. There are those out there that are sharing messages. There are those out there that are raising their children. There are those out there that are raising other people's children. There are those out there that are sharing posts on social media that are starting conversations that may not be positive, but may be more negative, but also need to come to the surface to be seen. We are all doing our bit to bring forward what needs to be seen. And that is the responsibility of our own emotions within the situations we find ourselves part of. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's going to be the very movement of the medicine wheel this year, the acknowledgement of the elements within us, our emotions and how important they are. The other thing I want to share on the archetype of the horse, when it comes to shamanic terms, the horse is the shaman's drum. It is that beat that takes us forward. It is the wind horse. It is the mind. It is the energy that continues to help us evolve. Whatever you find yourself part of this week, are you evolving? Are you moving forward? That doesn't mean where you were wasn't good enough. That means expand on that. Grow with that, embody that, integrate that, share that. Okay. Energies this week and how to best navigate them. It feels very, very pivotal that we recognize how many horses there are in the tarot as well. So horse energy changes, fire energy changes, our energy changes. Energy changes. That's what it does. And if we find ourselves resistant to that, what's underneath that? What's stopping that wheel from moving? I'm being shown the water wheel of a mill. You know, our emotions being the water, but there being something lodged in the wheel. What's stopping our energy from moving? What's stopping us? Now I'm being shown the circulatory system, how the blood pumps back down through the heart. What's stopping that energy coming back through the heart to be filtered? What do we need to feel safe enough to come back into that heart space? You know, we can feel angry, we can feel frustrated, we can feel frightened. How willing are we to really get to the depth of where that's coming from? Okay. So I'm going to give an example there. What I can hear is how willing are we to do the work, our own work. Now, the reason I didn't share that straight away is because I was acutely aware of my own views of that in my own upbringing, of my perception of people that could be doing more with their emotions in a more authority stanced place that weren't. So being aware of your own energy behind that first, I will still share that the greatest work is us, that the greatest sacred connection is us and our own self-awareness, because that's my own personal belief. And that is how we empower ourselves, to be aware of the things that we feel, to really acknowledge them and take guidance from them, but also direct them. What do we have at the bottom? Okay, I'm going to turn the pack up the right way for starters, because everything's upside down at the moment with this pack, with the unfolding path, which is how January can feel. And at the bottom of the pack, we have the 10 of Wands here. We can have this feeling where we're doing it all. We can have this feeling where we're feeling it all. Now, that can be in our home lives, that can be in our professional lives, that can be in our relationships, as if we're carrying the load, as if we're pulling everything up the stairs to enlightenment, to ascension, to the job that we want, the relationship that we're longing for. whatever that may be, we can feel as if we are doing it all here, carrying it all, traipsing it up the stairs. And I want to say that there's a choice. I want to say there's a choice. However, being faced with what's in front of me right now, seeing what is in front of us right now, the choice is to keep going, to keep carrying things, to keep moving towards that door that is waiting to be open, to understand that it's hard, to recognize and have compassion not only for others but for ourselves within situations. It is hard to be in certain energies. It is hard to watch things play themselves out. It is hard to be in a world that is at war over land, that has historically been going on for all of our lifetimes. It is hard to witness these things. Acknowledge that. Don't run from that, because when we acknowledge that, we can then take responsibility, not for the things that are occurring, not even for what is being asked of us as a result, but for ourselves first and foremost. What do we need to cope with these times that are hard? January is a time of wintering. What do we need to be with our bodies, to be in that stillness, to have the truth and honesty of where we're struggling, of where we're finding it hard? You may be the person that people always seek out when things go wrong. Are you taking time for yourself? You may be the person that other people put on and don't take responsibility. Are you taking time for yourself? This isn't about not doing things or not being who you are. This isn't about not being the mother that cares for her children and puts their needs above her own. This isn't about that. This is about expanding and knowing that you can do both, that you don't have to choose. But first, you must acknowledge where it's hard. And from there, what you need to continue doing who you are. Okay, so we're going to go with that. I'm not going to shuffle. I'm not going to shuffle the cards. We're going to look at the energies this week. My throat is going. Okay, so hopefully not literally. What I mean is I can feel it moving. And I'm being shown a program that I watched recently, The War Between the Land and Water, incredible program. But the power that they had here in their throat documented what was going on in the world. It recorded videos of everything that had happened, and acknowledging that that's what we do in our voice, whether we express it or not, that's what we do in our communication. One of the horse's greatest gifts, and my own actually, having been brought up with them, is to be aware of the conversations that are occurring without even being said energetically, based on things that I have seen before, based on experiences I have gained before from this wealth of information here. So if you feel things stirring in your throat, it's not about closing them off. It's not about not speaking, but listen first to what is being said to you, from you, before it is then communicated. It's going to really strengthen your integration, because it's going to connect you to what it is you want in the outcome. This video has always been about how to navigate the energies for the week ahead, really tapping into our aim. What is it we are trying to achieve here? What is being communicated as a result here? How aligned are we to that? Because the truth of the matter is, if we are trying to get across, love, okay, if we're trying to get across the energy of love and we come back into that energy of love, anything that isn't of that energy isn't going to resonate, which means we're not going to be carrying that, which is going to make things easier. So if you're attuning to this is like law of manifestation on another level. If you're attuning to the energy of peace whilst having conflict in yourself, whatever you share, no matter how well-meaning, is going to be difficult, because you're not in alignment with what you're trying to achieve. The only way to recognize that is to be honest with where we're struggling, with where we're feeling that conflict. Then why? Then what we need. Okay, as above, so below, as within, so without this year, right? And it helps us to then realize the empowering truth that we are part of this creation, not in a negative, judgmental manner, unless that's your thing or unless you can learn from that. But we are part of this creation, which means there's always something that we can do purely based on who we choose to be. Okay, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There was actually 2 for Sunday overall. Okay. One thing I'm noticing as I work with this deck, the Unfolding Path Tarot by Athene Noctua, very rarely do the major arcanas come out unless there's a real point to get across. And that feels quite important as we go through the week, particularly in what could be a potential dark night of the soul for many. It may feel as if there's no major arcanas, no major fate-like energy there to help us, no change, no apparent change outside of us, because the focus is on the internal this week and for the whole of January before we go into spring. The focus here is on the internal. We do, however, have one major arcana and it's on the Sunday, but there are 2 on the Sunday. So whilst it is there, it is still down to us to acknowledge our reflection of that, what we need to connect to that. And that major arcana is the Death card. Change, transformation. And the card that comes with it, yes, it's on the Sunday, but it's for the whole energy this week. The card that comes with it is the 4 of Swords. If we want that change, if we want that transformation, one is getting to the bones of the things that we may not have faced. Okay, so this card has the skull here. I'm also being shown the crystal skulls. I'm also being shown a lot of wisdom that is trying to come through, that has been waiting for this time, that has needed the evolutionary stresses that we are currently experiencing within all of us to come to the surface. A lot of knowledge here in our own mindsets that needs to come forward, but we must get to the bones of it. We must face, I was going to say look, but it's not, it's face. We must face now. It's not even just about seeing things, but really acknowledging them, facing them from within our own reflection, the very bones of what is occurring and what now needs transforming. And the way to do that, the card we have next to it, is the 4 of Swords. It is rest. It is lay down those swords. Now I know at this time that can seem so counterintuitive. I know at this time of year to not have massive plans or resolutions or forthright movement because of the calendar and because of what we see around us can seem so strange, so upside down, so topsy-turvy. But the truth of the matter is we are in the winter. This isn't the time to be setting plans for the year ahead. If we go by the energies that we're facing, outside my window at the moment, it's snowed. The ground is covered in snow, a pure white, clean sheet of potential. And underneath it, everything is too hard to even grow anything right now. It is being protected by innocence, by light, by the white energy, by the purity of snow. I know it seems counterproductive in the world that we live, and I'm not suggesting that we ignore the wars that are going on. What I'm suggesting is we pick our battles. We put down the 3 of Swords, the heartbreak from previous conflicts and experiences, and we pick one thing, one mindset that is going to take us through these difficult times, that is going to transform us not only now, but whenever these things occur again, possibly looking back over something that has helped us. When we get to the base of our wounding, we also find the medicine. So something that has helped us throughout difficult times. Concentrating on that, focusing on that, For me, it is heart-led coherence. It's going to be different. Well, is it going to be different for us all? Well, no, heart-led coherence, it isn't going to be different for us all, but how the heart understands is going to be different for us all. Taking that one thing forward, but you're not going to know what that is unless you rest mentally. This is a mental card. Even though she's physically resting here, this is a mental card. I know this time of year is the busiest. You know, best will in the world, any plans that you have, no matter how busy you may think you are, no matter how good you think those plans are, come the new moon, they are going to change. Everything is going to go up into the air. So I'm not suggesting don't have any foundations, but recognize you are the most strongest foundation underneath them all. Center it around rest, center it around wintering, center it around peace within yourself, the heart coherence within yourself, and then act from there, because that will give you long-term goals. Anything else of a more mental nature at the moment, particularly fear-driven, particularly based on old experiences, they aren't going to last. Come the 18th of January, possibly before then, it's all about to go into the air. There is going to be a much bigger perspective of what is going on coming through mid-month. So for now, do what you can. Do what you are good at and rest and ensure that you can do that, because it's that that's going to bring forth the transformations. Yes, on Sunday, but overall as well. So let's get back to the week. 31 minutes. The rest of the week is all minor arcanas and players of the game, shall we say, all people perspectives. Okay, so really important to acknowledge where you stand on things, particularly on the Monday. We have the King of Pentacles. It's business. Pure and simple. It doesn't matter how it's looked at. It reminds me of the image that I saw this morning with the Daily Dose, which I'm back to doing. There was a throne. Looked like the Emperor throne, but there was a throne and there was a star jumping out, but it was like a pop-up card. So it was an artificial vision here. We may think, yeah, that's what I'm definitely seeing, or that's what I'm definitely connecting to, or that's what I definitely want. But underneath it all, it's time to get honest and brutal. It's business. And for some, it can be business as usual, in particular with our mindset. We may go back to old ways of seeing things because it's business as usual and it's easier to see it that way than to delve that little bit deeper. But delving the little bit deeper is what's going to give you grounding. Delving the little bit deeper is what's going to help you really acknowledge the energy that you're sat on, quite literally. The energy that my chair is just wobbling everywhere. The energy that you're sat on. There's a lot of things that could be tapped into. There's a lot of things people are doing without realizing they're doing. And just by acknowledging that, it will increase one's own worth. But there's a lot of things that people could be doing more of. Not differently, but more embodied, more from a grounded physical perspective, but they are unable to because the moment they come into their body, there's pain there, or fear there, or fight or flight there, and rather than be with that and be with what the body needs, straight back up into the head again. So Monday, it is business as usual, okay? It is, what it says it is. It is all about money. It is all about value. It is all about abundance. And it is all about how we continue to see that. It is from the energy of the masculine, and I am aware there's a lot going on in the collective. Underneath it all, what is being brought up in you to now take a good, hard look at? For me, on the collective, I was quite shocked that every time I tuned in, there's nothing that's being needed of me any more than what I'm already doing. And what that actually did was trigger in me the not enoughness, the child in me that feels like she has to save the world, the part of me that feels like I know best, the part of me that is uncomfortable watching things play out, the part of me that doubts whether I'm good enough or doing enough. And I can be aware of that, and I can see that, and I can feel the discomfort that I feel and ancestrally that would have been inherited down my line of being able to sit in my own sovereignty and watch things pan out and trust that I will act when I know I need to act and that what I'm doing is more than enough. and the discomfort that I feel in that sovereignty. So on the Monday, what is coming up for you? What are you facing in anything that's being triggered or projected or anything that you can see? Delve a little bit deeper. You're stronger now. We have more grounded roots now because of the year before. A lot has shifted. This is the tail end, the flick of the snake, which if we're not careful, if not addressed, will become the whole cycle again. What is coming up for you? What needs looking at? What do you need in order to feel supported enough to observe this and eventually, without the judgments and the wounds and the pains and the stories, create with it? Underneath it all, once I feel into the knowing that I'm doing everything I'm being asked to do, there's a strength there, there's clarity there, there's a focus there. Particularly on the Monday. On the Tuesday, we have the Six of Swords, and whilst I can feel the almost the backwards motion emotionally, having acknowledged what is going on, emotionally dragging me back, the Six of Swords is moving forward. What are we heading towards? What is our plan? What is our outcome? If our plan is that of peace, are we at peace? If my plan for this video is to look at the energies this week and how to best navigate them, stepping back into what is going on in a different direction, no. So particularly for those that are in the spiritual arena, myself included, one of our greatest skills can be to go with the flow, okay, to allow what needs to come through, and that is beautiful. It also can be very disempowering if we don't realize that there needs to be structure and flow to chaos also, that we set our intention, that we work with our intention as a focus, that we can always come back and do something else that has come up whilst doing what we were doing, but it is important that we finish what we've started. Otherwise the energy is going to be very distracted, and thank you, you're very weak and very diluted. Tuesday, focus. This is what I need to do. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. Once I've done it, anything that comes up, I can return to. Recognizing time for the beauty that it is. It isn't linear. So if something comes up and it needs to be addressed, you will be given the opportunity to go over it. Don't worry about that. Just keep focused on the path in front of you. Know that it is your focus and your mindset that will move and shift things, particularly on the Tuesday. I want to flick each card like done. On the Wednesday, we have the Knight of Wands. This is where we're going to start to get a little insight. And it's important that we pause, drink lots of water on the Wednesday. Actually, mine's honey tea. So what we normally have sweet things when we've had a bit of a shock, right? So when things have suddenly moved and suddenly shifted, don't be surprised if on the Wednesday the things that you've been asking for start to come into fruition, or at least you see that they're starting to come into fruition. And once we see that things are changing, once we see that the things that we've asked for are there for the taking, that then becomes our responsibility and choice as to whether or not we take them. And I feel that in my root chakra. I feel excitement. I also feel a yearning to control, almost. Go with it on the Wednesday, flow with it on the Wednesday. I know I've just spoke about structure and routine. See flow as part of the structure and routine on the Wednesday. On the Tuesday, things have been given that focus and direction. On the Wednesday, they've been heard, and what you need to continue that journey has been given to you. So keep going on the Wednesday. I would say don't over push it, don't over do it, but actually on the Wednesday she's good. The energy here is good. It's passionate, it's driven. You know, you have the red of the trousers and the white of the top. You have the red of the feminine and the white of the masculine. It's united and it's balanced. So provided, thank you, yes, it's united and balanced and you feel good, do it. Let that be your essence. And I know at times like now, it can feel almost like a dirty word or something terrible if you actually feel good and if you actually want to share or keep moving forward, or you're in a positive space. We can almost feel very guilt driven. Come the Thursday, it's important to sit with that. Come the Thursday, it's important to be the light. There's a big difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy can in the more shadow-like aspects, and I guess empathy as well to an extent, sympathy can, in the more shadow-like aspects, stop us all from moving forward. Look at the energy behind something. On the Thursday, we have the Queen of Wands, and she is happy. She's playing with the cat on her lap. She's solid. She's connected to who she is. There's passion and joy and power there. One of the other energies for this year, which I've said before, is the Sun card. We've learned a lot about our light over the last, 14 years, right? We've learned a lot about the importance of light. And yet there's still conflict in the times of darkness about standing in our light, as if it's the done thing for us all to be in the shadow and in the darkness. No one leaves if that happens. I'm being shown the analogy of the pit. If someone's fallen in the pit, if we get in with them, we cannot help them out. But if we lean over and offer an arm and a light, we can. Some people are in the pits. Sometimes we'll be in the pits. We will all take turns. So if you're not in the pit, don't get in the pit. Help those that want to get out of the pit out. Particularly on the Thursday, embrace, if you're in a good space, embrace the good space that you may find yourself in. Bring that to the table. It can seem very strange to be happy in times of sadness. That's not downplaying what is going on. That's being authentic with where you are and bringing that opposite energy. Thank you. Yeah, the Heyoka energy into the situation. Said it before and I'll say it again. You cannot change something with the same energy. It isn't possible. So if you're finding yourself feeling bright and breezy in less than ideal circumstances, that may be exactly what is needed. Which on the Friday is what we get a glimpse into with the King of Swords. Interesting, come the Friday, we have an energy coming in, a masculine energy coming in that's very forthright and very driven here, that helps us to see things from a different perspective. On his throne, I'm being shown, on his throne there is an eagle, but he's looking at the word king. He's looking at the word king. This does feel related to the global collective thing that is going on as well. Yes, we may have had the truth that certain things are about money. However, that doesn't make it right. Okay, come the Friday, there has to be a different perspective of how things are now done. And that will come in with a more masculine, business-like energy. Is there anything else to add on that? So I am feeling that on the global scale, much as I didn't want to do much of a reading into that, on the global scale, there will be insights coming in on the Friday in regards to what we hear on the Monday. And it will be not the other side of the coin, it will be the other side of the consequences if things don't change. And it will be matter of fact, and it will be more of a expanded perspective of what is going on. It will be an opportunity to focus on what matters on the Friday. It will be a direct questioning of where something could go. It will be a union, actually, as well, of energies that are necessary. It will be a more grounded mentality. It is going to take a feminine approach in the middle of the week to be with our emotions, to recognize that light does what light does. It shows up darkness, to move with that, to look at our own mindset behind that, but to move with that and to bring the space needed for things to unravel. From there is a great emphasis on a union of our own mind and our own actions. On the Saturday, this alignment, and that does bring with it a headache. There is more energy trying to come through, more wisdom trying to come through, and there is time. So I can see that there are hints here at collective readings. And it's something I've been aware of for a while on a more political, grander scale. However, I'm also aware that I'm not integrated enough to do that at the moment. That I have my focus where it is, and this needs to come to completion first. On the Saturday, with that alignment, yes, we may feel that there are new ways of being trying to come through, new memories, new languages, thank you, trying to come through, new opportunities trying to come through. The question is, how aligned are we? The question is, how balanced are we? Have we mastered, or are we trying to control spirituality, creativity, our light, whatever name you want to give it, our masculine actions? On the Sunday, that's where the opportunity is to rest. To rest, to allow this to come in now, to take time with the body. I'm just thinking I have the market on Saturday for donations, so it'd be great to see people. And then on the Sunday, I do actually have a spa day for myself that I will do myself, penciled into my diary. So sticking to the things that you have penciled in for yourself this week as well, very, very important. If you wish to move forward mentally, some of the reasons behind, well, all of the reasons behind why we may feel beholden to a certain belief or situation or offering is because we're not taking care of ourselves in the greater scheme of things. Why? Wow, the energy overall this week is the Nine of Pentacles. The energy overall this week has a beautiful white peacock here. Purity, beauty, divinity, wealth, abundance, sovereignty, connection to the feminine, standing in the blossoming of who we are and who we are becoming, and the wealth and richness of life that brings. Acknowledging this is a process. Life is a process. It needs to be a process. If it isn't a process, we don't gain experience, and experience is going to be the thing that takes us all forward in 2026. But first, we must recognize it is a process. It is based upon experience. Experience is the only richness that there is. The only, how we live our life is the only true coinage of our consciousness, shall we say. Try saying that with honey teeth. Coinage of our own consciousness, shall we say, and really embracing that, being proud of that, stepping into that. We can either say, oh, I'm being asked to do this, or okay, what can you see about me that I obviously can't? It's all a choice. So we have one major arcana, which is the Death card. It is a week of transformation. It is a week of endings. It is a week of getting to the bones of it. It is a week of really looking at our own mentality and bringing forward a different perspective regarding the wisdom that we have, regarding the wisdom we are this week, because it's that's going to change everything. The rest of the week is then minor arcanas. It's like this conflict, I was going to say battle, between the masculine and the feminine, and it is within us, and it's this battle that is causing things to feel as if they're too much. We may not trust our actions intuitively, or our actions may not be grounded in intuition. Either or, there's something there that is lacking. To restore that balance, we come back to the one thing that links them, the bridge, the heart. Okay, if we're not ready to do something, it's okay. Regardless what the world says, it's okay. If I started to do a reading into what I was getting insights into, snippets into, before I was prepared, I'm not going to be able to give you the full information. I'm not ready, and that's okay. One of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves is patience and time to process, to integrate. And that's what January is all about. Okay, so we then have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. So we have 2 pentacle cards here. The balance, the union, comes from the King of Pentacles and the Nine of Pentacles. Own what you're capable of. Own your abilities. Without guilt, without shame, without listening to the opinions of others. Know where you are and recognize how abundant that makes you. How rich that makes you in life. How worthy that makes you. That if you're doing something that you don't feel you're capable of and you can't do it, that's not going to do anything for your self-worth. If you're not doing what you know you're capable of, or you're moaning and bitching about it, that's not going to do anything for your worth either. Expand here. ruffle those feathers, let those feathers be ruffled, and see what's underneath, what's trying to come through. What is it you now need to face? Get honest with what it's all about. That's what's going to bring the balance. We then have 3 sword cards and 4 wand cards. So we have 3 sword cards. In order to move forward, in order for a new, more expansive, vast perspective to come through, rest is key. We may not like that. It may be bloody inconvenient. We may have all these ideas that we wanted to get on with. They are going to be stronger by putting in the mental groundwork now. That rest can be a pause, a breath. It can be a break. It can be acknowledging what we want to do, what we don't want to do, recognizing the discrepancies, bridging them. I'm not saying don't, sometimes there are things we don't want to do, or sometimes there are things that we may not quite feel ready for, and we're not being able to see our perspective, or we haven't put time by, or whatever. How can we bridge those? How can we pause and really feel what is going on, what moving forward looks like to us, what we're trying to achieve, and the best way to do that? It's 3 of swords, or 3 sword cards here. It is an open heart. Now, that open heart can come from heartbreak or from an open heart. We then have 3 of wands here. Now, there's something there, recognizing the separation that causes heartbreak, recognizing the them and us that causes heartbreak and separation, recognizing the what I used to be and who I am that causes, really being aware of the pain of separation. It is a 1 year. That doesn't mean it's just about the individual. It means it's about all the individuals within the one. And that can be the biggest shift and healing that can occur for 2026. But we must acknowledge the pain that has come from not being part of that, either through our own doing or others, and be with that. We then have 3 wand cards, the Knight of Wands, the 8 of Wands, and the Queen of Wands. Integrity, honesty, authenticity, taking where we are, what we have, and moving forward with it is the warrior way. Okay, it is the peaceful warrior way. The peaceful warrior, like the monks that are doing the walk, doesn't mean that we're not doing anything. It means we're doing what we can, and we're recognizing that we are doing what we can. Some of the traumatic outcomes that come from situations can come from guilt or shame, where we feel like we're not doing enough, where we feel guilty for the lives that we have lived, or, if we can feel gratitude for what we have, sadness for the imbalances in the world, and then bridge that gap by doing what we can in that moment, that is what's going to really give us all a more strong seating in observing what is occurring and creating something different. Take care, and I shall see you next week.